Hi, I'm Lindsay Reiser. Let's take you to the White House, where the president is taking questions.
And there's more investment being made in the United States than any country at any time in history. And a lot of that's AI, and a lot of that's maybe in a certain way, maybe more importantly, auto plants are all coming back to our country. They're coming back from different countries where they left us, for Germany, as you know, and Japan, and South Korea, and Canada, Mexico. And they're all coming back at levels that nobody's ever seen before. And tariffs did it. I did it. Maybe the election did it, but tariffs did it. And if they build here, they don't have to pay tariffs. We have Germany is giving a lot of companies are coming in from Germany, from Japan. Japan just announced $10 billion more plants going to be built between Toyota and Honda and all the different companies there pouring into our country. In South Korea, Canada, they're coming in. I don't know what they're doing, but I can tell you they're coming in tremendously from Canada. There's no reason they don't want to pay the tariff, and because of that, they're investing at levels never seen before. We will, for 30 years we virtually didn't build an auto plant in this country, and now we're doing more than we've ever done. So I'm very proud of that. AI is going wild. We're doing great, and we're letting them build their own electric, but we're actually making them build their own electric plant, so they take tremendous amounts of energy to have a successful plant, and they're building, all of the new ones are building their own electric plant, like a utility, and any extra, they'll either give it or sell it for a good price to local communities and to the grid. So it's going to be fantastic, but we have tremendous amounts of factories being built in our country now, more than we've ever had at any time ever before. And we have the biggest investment being made in our country. In the history of our country, by the way, in the history of any country, there's never been a country that has the kind of investment coming in that we have right now. And these things are being built right now. So you're not going to see the results. I mean, you see construction results. You notice the construction workers are through the roof. But when they open, the numbers are going to be staggering. Do you have a question?
I certainly do. Thank you, Mr. President. You had some good economic news, GDP, 2% growth.
Yeah.
New orders for business equipment surged to the highest level in 6 years. And IRS data shows that the average federal tax return is up by more than 11% when you compare it to the same time as last year. Do you believe that this is evidence?
Over 100%.
Do you believe that this is evidence that the big, beautiful tax cuts that you signed into law last year are working? And do you think the economy is going to continue to hum as the year progresses?
Yeah, thank you. So the biggest tax cut in history is in the great, big, beautiful bill. And I think, I see it. I actually see it reported where people are shocked at how much money they're making. They can't believe the refunds that they're making. 5,000, 6,000, 7, 8, 9. I saw one last night on television, 11,000 more than she thought she was going to get. And it's no tax on tips and no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for our seniors, no tax on social, nobody can believe it even. And the numbers are far greater than they thought. People that thought they were going to make an extra $500, turns out they're making an extra $5,000. So it's been really great, yeah. And that's going to carry forward. Look, the country's doing really well. And that's despite a military operation. I don't call it a war. We'd rather have a military operation. Where really, Iran is dying to make a deal. I can only tell you that. I don't want to get into it, but they cannot be nuclear other than that. But their Navy's gone, their Air Force is gone. Every ounce of any form of equipment practically is gone. Their drone factories are about 82% down, and their missile factories are almost 90% down. And many of their missiles have been knocked out. They used some, but we knocked out more than they used. And it's pretty amazing what's happened. They want to make a deal. But despite the fact that we are in what some people would call a war, we just hit a new high today on the stock market. We have S&P is through the roof. They're through the roof. And, when we hit 50,000 on the Dow and 7,000 on the S&P, I said to myself, we got to do something about Iran. They want to have a nuclear weapon. You can't let them have a nuclear weapon. And I hated to do it to my people because they said 50,000. Peter, you know this. that 50,000 wouldn't be obtainable in my 4 years, or anybody's 4 years. And we hit 50,000 in my first year, the end of my first year. We hit 7,000 on the S&P. They said that would be even less attainable, and we hit that at the end of the first year, before the year was up. And then I said to Kevin, sorry about this, Kevin, but we have to put out a fire, and the fire is taking place in the lovely country of Iran, and they want to have a nuclear weapon. And if we didn't use this beautiful, see that plane right there, that beautiful B-2 bomber? It looks small there, but it's actually quite. It doesn't look very powerful there, but it's quite large actually. We ordered 25 more of them, the updated version, all built in America, which is very nice, right? But if we didn't have that B-2 bomber, if we didn't go in and do what we did, we obliterated that nuclear capacity of theirs, and so they didn't get the nuclear bomb. If we didn't do that attack, should have been done long before I came along by other presidents or by another country or something, but it should have been done long before I came along. But they are in very bad shape, and they've got nothing going, including leadership. I mean, you know, their leaders are gone. Now they have a whole new, their first string leaders are gone, their second string leaders are gone. Now we're dealing with their third string. But we'll see what happens. It's been an amazing period of time between Venezuela and where we're doing great. We're getting along with them great. We're working very closely with them. They're doing more oil now than they've done in many, many decades, actually. And they're making more money, and so are we. You know, it's like a joint venture, to be honest. And we've paid for the attack many times over. The attack, something you've never heard before, probably. I always used to say to the victor, belong the spoils. But we've paid for the attack, which is always expensive. But it was a less than 1 day attack. It was actually a 45-minute attack. And that's a good, you know, they have a good military in Venezuela, but they did not expect that and that and that and that. Other than that. But when these suckers come at you at 2,500 miles an hour, at 25 feet off the ground, you say, this is not what I bargained for. This is no good. Anyway, and now, you know, Venezuela was amazing, but now we're doing essentially, it's larger, but we're doing essentially the same thing in Iran. Can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And their economy is crashing. The blockade is incredible. The power of the blockade is incredible. They're not getting any money from oil. And hopefully it can be worked out very soon. Yeah.
Iran is proving to be very stubborn. The talks seem like they are stalled. Are you getting antsy to break the ceasefire?
Well, I mean, I don't know what stubborn is, because really nobody knows what the talks are except myself and a couple of other people. They want to make a deal badly. We have a problem because nobody knows for sure who the leaders are. It's a little bit of a problem, you know. The leaders have been wiped out along with their military, almost all of their military. I mean, think of it. 159 ships was their total Navy. 159 ships are gone. They're underwater. They're way below sea level. Sea level is a big difference. Pretty deep waters over there, too. So, I don't know that we need it. We might need it.
And on Iran, a little while ago, the president of FIFA said that when the World Cup is here in the U.S., the team from Iran will be playing in the games.
Well, if Johnny said it, I'm okay. Did Johnny say it?
He did? What if they
Johnny
win?
Infantino, that's a piece of work.
What if they win?
Well, if they win, we'll have to worry about that. That's not. I'm going to have to worry about that one. Look, you know what? Let him play well. Johnny's fantastic. You know, he's a friend of mine, and he talked about it. I said, you do whatever you want. You can have him. You don't have to have him. Probably have a good team. I don't know. Do they have a good team? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea.
Would be hard to believe, actually. But I think let him play. Right?
This is a little bit different, but what is your take on these reports that your show, The Apprentice, is going to could come back on Amazon with host Donald Trump Jr.?
Well, I've been hearing it. Look, we had a great success, 14 seasons, and The Apprentice was a tremendous success. So I've been hearing that, a little bit. So we'll see what happens. He's good. He's a good guy. He'd be probably good. He's got a little charisma going. You need a little charisma for that soccer swing. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, they told me about it. We'll see.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. President. There's been some talks about changes to your security after what took place.
Changing my security.
Changing your security after what took place.
Well, they did a pretty good job, actually. They stopped the NFL running back. I mean, he was like a running back. In fact, if he ever got out, they're probably going to sign him. He was a speedy guy, but he was stopped. They had many levels in front of him before he would even come to us. You could be a baseball team and win 19-0, and somebody could say, you should have won 21. You should have gotten 25 runs. The team was no good or something. So I don't know. I can only say that I know a lot of those people at Secret Service, and they were good and they were forceful. And I saw the guys in front of me. They were powerful-looking guys. I said we could send them to Hollywood. They could make movies. I think that there's always room for improvement, right? And he got into the building. The problem is I know that's what I do. I build buildings like that. Much nicer, actually, but I build buildings like that. And, when you have 1,000 rooms sitting on top of a ballroom, and you have the elevators coming down right near the entrance, it's a pretty tough situation. Now, right outside, we have something that's on time, on budget, actually ahead of time, ahead of budget, depending on finishes. Finishes is a big difference between marble and onyx in price, but it's right on budget, right on time. And that's built to the highest standards of security. No units on top, no hotel built on top where an elevator comes right down through the middle of it. It's a tough location. That's a tough location. So I think I know the people at Secret Service. I think they're great, and I think the Congress has to take care of those people. We're talking about ICE. We're talking about Border Patrol, Secret Service. Everyone is. The Democrats essentially want to defund the police. Just so you know. That's right. They want to defund law enforcement. It's crazy. These people have gone crazy. I heard Hakeem Jeffries, a low IQ person. He's a very low IQ, screaming today that the Supreme Court is illegitimate. I mean, that's a dangerous statement. Then if I say something modest, they say, oh, he's a king, he's a king. They're sick. But Hakeem Jeffries said the Supreme Court is illegitimate. That's a rough statement. If I made that statement, it would be the biggest story out there. Bad things would happen.
One of the ideas.
The average price of a gallon of gas is now $4.30
Right,
in this country.
And you know what? And we're not going to have a nuclear weapon in the hands of Iran. The gas will go down. As soon as the war's over, it'll drop like a rock. There's so much of it. It's all over the place, sitting all over the oceans of the world. And it'll go down. But what won't happen is if Iran had a nuclear weapon and used it, then the whole world is a different place.
What about
You're
the
not going to have to pay a little bit more for gasoline. The gasoline, the oil will go down rapidly as soon as the war is over.
Can I follow up?
Brian,
Good to see you again, sir.
Brian, go ahead.
I've got two questions. The first, I want to follow up on Daniel's question. I've described you as the peacemaker. You're achieving peace around the world. Due to these latest policies, big beautiful bill, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, now the Trump account, and then the IRA account. Could we describe you as the wealth maker?
Well, I'm helping people out. It's a nice question, actually, but I'm helping people. These people are with me. These are great people, and feel free to speak up if you'd like, because they wanted this to happen, and we got it done. And they're Republican people, I think, in all cases, right? In all cases. It's crazy. We need, like always, unanimous, because the Democrats, they will vote against anything, no matter how good. If they had their favorite thing in the world, and we happen to want it, but we found a new strategy. We're going to oppose every single thing that we want, and we'll get unanimous votes. So I'm going to come up and oppose everything, Brian, from this point forward. and they'll vote for it. Go ahead.
Second question. You created Space Force on
Yeah.
the second end, towards the end of your first administration. You just had the Artemis II crew in here. I know it's a big accomplishment. What do you see moving forward, the duration of your administration in terms of space exploration? I know that was a big moment for you.
Well, doing Space Force I think it's going to go down as one of my more important things. It's turning out. Even a lot of these great military operations that we have right now, when you look at Venezuela, when you look at like the decimation of Iran, which was considered powerful, it was the bully of the Middle East. And a lot of that took place so effectively because of what's coming out of space. When we did Space Force, when I did Space Force, I'm very proud of it, space was like, we were third. China was first, Russia was second. Now we've leapfrogged. We're way ahead of China, we're way ahead of Russia. And we made some great choices. The first person that headed Space Force, and really after that we had a couple of really great people heading it. Always very important. And a new person is heading it now. I think he has a chance to be as good as anybody, as good as, maybe better, I don't know. But we've had great people heading up Space Force. It's been very important. It's been very important for what we're doing with respect to the different places. And as far as peace, I settled 8 wars. And people try and dispute it, but then they go over them. And almost in every case, they sent letters thanking me and letters to the Nobel Committee. I don't care about that. Maria was very nice. She gave me her Nobel Peace Prize because she said she didn't deserve it. She was very, very nice. But I settled 8 wars. And in every case, the people, the prime ministers or presidents wrote letters thanking me. And in the case of India, look, the biggest one would have been Pakistan, India. The prime minister of Pakistan said, I saved from 30 to 50 million lives, but it could have been more than that. 2 nuclear nations were going at it. 11 airplanes were shot down. They were in the first week of what would have been a very bad war, and I got it solved. You know how I got it solved? By the use of tariffs. I said, I'm going to charge you tariffs if you guys keep fighting. And they said, oh, please don't do that.
You just lifted the tariffs, right? You just lifted some tariffs on whiskey? Is that correct?
Yeah, what I'm doing is for as long as I've been here, they've wanted to, you know, Kentucky, which is a great place. And I also won, Jason, by a lot. But Kentucky, with the bourbon, and Scotland with the whiskey, and they've had trade for years and years and years, and a lot of restrictions, a lot of different restrictions took place that didn't amount to much, and it really stopped them. I don't know if you know, it's a barrel trade. They use the barrels from the one to take care of the other, and the barrels are only good for 1 unit. In other words, they can't be used twice. They can only be used once, but the once makes it a better substance. I'm not a big drinker, so forgive me. But it makes them a big substance and a better taste. But they dealt for years. This was Scotland and Kentucky, mostly Kentucky. And I just took all the restrictions off. So Scotland and Kentucky can start dealing again. And I did it in honor of the king and queen who just left. They're heading back. And it was a big deal. They've been trying to get this for a long time.
Yes, Mr. President.
We have been listening to President Trump speak from the White House after signing a few executive orders, including creating a new retirement account for those who don't have access to one from their employer, in which the government will also pay a $1,000 match. The president also saying Iran is dying to make a deal, saying he calls it an operation, not a war, although he has referred to it as a war many times before. He says we are essentially doing the same thing in Iran that we are doing in Venezuela. And of course, those two are very far apart in terms of how the operations went down and the aftermath. And he also said gas will drop like a rock as soon as the war is over. Joining us now is CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe. Ed, certainly when it comes to gas prices, the president sees the same numbers that you and I see, and today they hit a 4-year high.
They did, and they've been climbing sometimes twice a day in some parts of the country over the last few days, as there are some concerns about transportation costs and the logistics of getting fuel into some Midwestern states. This is a terribly sensitive subject for him, as you saw in his reaction when he was asked about it, immediately trying to cut it off and saying, hey, the cost of having a nuclear weapon in the possession of Iran is greater. But as the defense secretary endured earlier today up on Capitol Hill, many see that as a hypothetical versus the reality of right now, which is that Americans are paying much more. He's surrounded here, we should also note, by a handful of House Republican lawmakers who are in some of the toughest reelection fights this fall in various parts of the country, Iowa, New York, Florida, among other places. And so the part of him being there with them and signing that executive order specifically regarding retirement accounts is designed to demonstrate that they're supporting his push to try to lower costs in other ways. But obviously, gas prices very much on the minds of most Americans right now, Lindsay.
Now, when he says Iran is dying to make a deal and says, I don't want to get into the specifics, we know that he does not want to send a delegation, which would include Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, potentially J.D. Vance. He has said he doesn't want to essentially waste the 18-hour plane flight. Do we essentially know the status of the talks? Is each party speaking to a mediator? What can you tell us?
All we know is that they're, in essence, at least publicly, still waiting for some kind of Iranian response. And there was a lot of debate today and yesterday on Capitol Hill as the defense secretary testified about whether, in fact, this isn't a stalemate. He continued to defend the matter, saying, while there's a ceasefire, the Iranian's military has been depleted, and the more immediate threat is no longer there. But otherwise, we know, at least publicly, of no firm offer from the Iranians or counteroffer that would somehow bring the two sides back together. And so the stalemate continues. And again, the spike in gas prices will be very much on the mind of the president and his team here, because they know, as it was over the last few weeks, it went up, it started to slide back, but then it has started creeping up, and as you said, hit 4-year highs today, because it seems the markets are realizing that there is no end in sight.
All right, and I do want to correct the record. I misspoke. It's actually going to be $1,000 per year that the government will be matching, not per month, in those new retirement accounts.
That would be a lot of money.
Yeah, that would be. Ed O'Keefe, thank you so much.